Welcome to episode 183 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. Dr. Brian Bisher joins me today to talk about a topic that he is passionate about: wellness coaching for men, especially dads. We also talk about his Facebook group and the free masterclass on his website. If you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, my name is Kim Newlove, and I'm the host. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I made a career transition to voice actor and podcast host. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for women pharmacist authors, provide medical narration to clients in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries, and narrate content for explainer videos and e-learning projects. I was inspired by my nonverbal son, who has autism, to combine my background as a pharmacist with my speaking voice and launch my business, The Pharmacist Voice, in 2017. My son Craig helped me realize the power of having a voice and using it. My solo podcast episodes are about some aspect of being a pharmacist, a voice actor, a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. My interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain so that you are inspired to use your voice too. This is episode 183, and you can find the show notes on my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and search for episode 183. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Dr. Brian Bisher. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice podcast. How are you?
Hi, Kim. I'm great, and thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. There's nothing like having two Ohio pharmacists on a podcast, right?
Right. I mean, can I get an OH or are we doing that?
IO, sure.
All right.
I actually did not go to the Ohio State. I went to the University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, but hey, that's all
Yeah.
right. Do you want to give a shout out to your pharmacy school too?
Actually, I didn't. Yeah, I went to UC. I didn't even go to Ohio State. My brother went there, and I still feel ties to Ohio State and have a lot of good memories there. So it's a state school.
That's all right. I feel like our citizenship in Ohio automatically makes us Ohio State fans. Am I right?
Yeah, but then again, I'm like thinking to myself, I actually tend to root. Uh, I won't even say this. I'm not going to admit this on the podcast. Who I root for.
That's all right. That's all right. And you did go to the University of Cincinnati. My son and my money will be going to the University of Cincinnati
Oh,
next year, I
nice.
believe. Yeah, an engineering student.
Oh, I was gonna ask engineering, very good program at UC for sure.
Yes, yes. He's attracted to the co-op program, all the experiences, a little bit slower pace where it's 5 years instead of 4 years to get a bachelor's, which is how I did it. I got a 5 year bachelor's from the University of Toledo, not because of co ops. That's just how long the program was back in 2001.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I'm really happy for him, and I wish him the best of luck.
Thank you very much. And you have some kids too, right? You are a
Yeah, they
pharmacist
are
dad.
far away from college age. They are 3.5 and 1.5. So unless I have like a boy genius I don't know about yet, we will be. Yeah, we got quite a ways to go till college. So it'll probably be. Who knows where they'll go or what colleges they'll choose, but um, it's been fun. It's been a really great experience raising two boys. Um, I just can't say enough about how much it's made me a better person in general, just being a dad. And like dads around the world now, they just have a special place in my heart because I know how hard it is to be a dad and to fulfill all your responsibilities with being the head of a family. So yeah, but thank you for asking. They're really fun. And one was born. My older son was born on my birthday, 30th birthday. So that's a
Wow.
pretty cool fact. It was like 3 in the morning. He was 11 days late. My wife was ready just
Wow.
get him out, and it was like he waited till he was born on my birthday. So now I don't have a birthday anymore. Just kidding. We share. Yeah, we.
Well, he's like a birthday gift, right?
Yeah, he was the best birthday gift I could have ever asked
Oh,
for.
yeah.
So
11 days late. God bless your wife. Wow.
yeah,
I know. We each have our struggles. We struggle in the pregnancy, but then the guys, you guys have your own struggles too, which we're going to get
Yeah.
to actually in just a second.
Yeah.
You focus on men's wellness and you talk about having a dad bod and supporting men on their wellness journeys. I would love to hear about what you do and your website so people can find you and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. Like you said, men's wellness has been a focus of mine ever since I myself went through a huge health transformation. Because ironically, pharmacy school was very unhealthy for me. Very stressful. Stayed up late a lot studying. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Um, for some reason, they fed us pizza a lot, free pizza, and it wasn't just the thin crust either. It was the thick crust. Like they purposely wanted to make me fall asleep in the afternoon classes because of my drop in blood sugar.
Right.
So pair that with not exercising at all, socializing frequently, and um, you are left with a dad bod before you're even a dad. And I felt terrible. I really felt terrible about myself. I felt terrible in general, just zero energy. And I got into becoming a pharmacist, and I'm like, I need to do something about this. And this is just not healthy. I'm supposed to be a healthy professional talking to people about health. And here I am, um, not really healthy myself. And I just got to this breaking point, which led me down this journey. Long story short, I did quote unquote crack the code for myself, really, but it was just this years and years of trial and error, practicing, learning, growing, um, which led me to just ultimately discover my real passion, which was never pharmacy. I went to pharmacy school, just a quick side note, because my parents were both pharmacists. And because
Oh,
when you're 18 years old, you don't know what the heck you want to do with the rest of your life. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I just picked what was uh like very
convenient.
convenient
Yeah.
and known to me, right? I'm like, my parents, they look like they're not super miserable. They do okay. So let's just do pharmacy. And lo and behold, like I went through pharmacy school, never really getting excited about classes or rotations. And so I found myself at the end of rotations like, do I really want to do this rest of my life? I'm like, well, I'm way too deep right now, money wise and debt wise, that I have to graduate and start working. But
Hmm.
I wanted to discover my passion. And through my own transformation, I discovered my passion really lied in wellness and preventative care. Um, so that's the long story. I know you asked a very simple question. I'm not even sure if I actually answered it, but
Sure, you
that
did.
was
Yeah.
that's what I do now. So I focus on prevention and wellness and just overall helping people get to a better place in their health before it gets to the point where they're in a hospital bed or they're on medication. Um, because I mean, at least a lot of people I talk to, they don't want to be on medication. They just, and I agree. I as a pharmacist, I think that should be like a gap filler until you can actually make the lifestyle changes appropriate enough to um, be healthy and live a good life. So
Hey, that'll work. That's a good explanation.
yeah.
Now, I understand that you have some certifications. You are a certified health coach and you also do something with integrative health. Can you explain what you do with both of those certifications?
Yeah, so they're actually one and the same. So I got certified as a health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
There you
And so
go.
that came um like 5 years after I graduated pharmacy school. Like I was like, okay, I'm actually serious enough about this. I'm going to take the next step. I want to learn about coaching because I actually going through this process believe that pharmacists are positioned to be some of the best health coaches out there, and that more pharmacists should get their health coaching certification regardless of if they want to start their own business or not, because it just positioned me to serve the people I was seeing in the hospital so much better. And through the health coaching institute and becoming a certified health coach, I just was able to differentiate the different like levels of wellness and what it took to truly be healthy and truly enjoy life. And one of the things I'll always remember that sticks out is like we have two different types of food, right? We have our primary food and our secondary food. Now, the primary food is not actually what you think it is. It's actually not the food we put in our mouths. It's our social relationships. It's our religion. It's our faith. It's our home environment. It's our physical activity. It's all those things that like fill you up on a deeper level. And the secondary food is actually what you put in your body. So the all the macronutrients, the carbs, fats, proteins. Um, but you could be eating the healthiest diet ever of the secondary foods, the cleanest diet, and have a very sick, undernourished primary food and be very sick, right? I really believe that, and that's what they taught me. Um, so like by treating and by addressing some of those other food sources that fill us up, we can then impact the actual foods we eat in our body and have this synergistic effect of creating health. So that was a huge concept for me that blew my mind, and just it took me on deeper levels of listening to people. And but you're doing a great job by now, right now, because you're just listening to me talk. But they took me
I'll
on a
tell you a
great
secret, Brian. 80 to 90% of my job is asking the right questions and listening for something to yes and
yeah,
go into the next question. Really, that's my job on a podcast. Yeah. And I'm going to leave that in because there might be somebody listening who's thinking, I wish I could have a podcast. And I'll tell you, 80 to 90% of it is you talking. And then 10 to 20% of me is, me talking. So I
yeah,
listen, you talk. It's all good. Hopefully I said that
I
all right
agree.
too.
You did, and even if you didn't, who cares, right? You don't have to be perfect. It's this idea that and one of the other cool things I learned was like I'm a guide on the side, helping people support them through their journey. I'm not this sage on the stage is going to say, you need to do this, you need to do that, because no one likes to be told what they need to do. It's actually better if you empower them with the knowledge and awareness to help them come to that realization on their own. And so that's mainly what I do through education and just listening and asking the right questions. And that's what I've done in the hospital. That's what I do now with my coaching clients. And it's incredibly rewarding.
Awesome. Now, where can people find you if they would like to hire you or connect with you?
Well, even, I mean, you don't have to hire me right away, but see if you like me. Uh, Even if you just want to have a conversation, I really am focusing more on engaging people in my Facebook group that I'm building up. And I liked this idea of naming it after an identity, right? And what I really came to surface when I was talking to the guys, this recurring theme was like, I believe had this feeling that I'm made to do more, that I'm made to do great things, but I'm just not living up to that potential. So if that's you, if you feel held back in any way, and that was me, I realized because you are best served to serve the person you once were. I had this feeling deep down that I was not living up to my potential, that I was just going through life, that I picked the easiest option of my career and just clocking in, clocking out. Not to say that any of those things are wrong if you find fulfillment in that, but um, that was a recurring theme, was that they're not made for more. So, long story short, I created the Facebook group Fathers Made for More, and that's all about like healthy living, sustainable weight loss, relationship with food, because that is a huge thing. So those are the three things I focus on in that Facebook group. So I'd love to connect with you there. Just search. Actually, we'll put the link in the show notes because it's the easiest way to get the link there.
Absolutely. Click and go. I'll put that in there for you. Brian, outside of your Facebook group, where do you do business? I mean, do you have a brick and mortar business? Or do you have an online business? I mean, how does this work?
I do coaching business online, and that allows me to help the most people without relying on in person, because I know people are busiest, and deliver coaching through this online platform I've found that is really cool.
You mentioned the Facebook group, but is there a website that you'd also like to mention?
Yeah, my website is just mindfulfitfather.com, and that's where you can find the training that I put together, the free training.
All right, thanks. Yes, I understand you have a master class on your website. Is that's the right website for that master class, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's being reworked now. So if you're listening to this now or maybe in the future, there will be a 2.0 version coming out after I've put more thought and got more feedback from it, and just talk to people more and more and understanding the problems and what they need to know. Because I do want that to be a thing of value that gives you useful insights that you can take and run with on your own. Have some aha moments, or just say, "Hey, like, let me take the next step. This was actually really insightful and it resonated with me." But either way, I want it to be something of value.
That's great. I love that you are into continuous improvement that will only help your clients. But I noticed that there's a few things that you would like people to learn from the video. And I'm just going to ask you on the podcast because I would love for you to give some insights into the listeners here.
Yeah,
One of
let's
those
do it.
questions is, can you explain why men have a hard time getting in shape?
Great question. Very layered problem, right? We hear the number one excuse is, I don't have the time. I don't have, I can't make the time. I just don't know what to do. Um, but really, what I believe it comes down to is the inner voice in their head, the fact that they don't believe enough that they can get in shape, and that it just throws up these defense mechanisms, because our bodies don't, they're not designed to lose weight anyway. So you have to go against biology. If you think about it, our bodies are really designed to hold on to calories and weight because it was so evolutionary. So when you try to lose weight, you try to do things, it's going to trigger off internal defense mechanisms, like hormonally. I don't want to get into all that, but like definitely hormonally, it triggers defense mechanisms. But I believe it also triggers defense mechanisms in the form of like that inner voice in your head, that is telling you, "Hey, you can't do this." It's the one that gives you the excuses. It's the one that beats you up when you miss a workout. It's the one that um, leads to the inconsistency. So that is why I really believe, is because there's this inner voice that almost like senses that they don't believe that they can do it. And when they don't believe they can do it, they don't want to feel like a failure. So they get protected about from even trying enough to give them a chance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it kind of ties into the term imposter syndrome, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, where uh, it's almost like that self fulfilling prophecy where you think, "Oh, I can't do this," and then therefore you don't.
Yes.
Well, two other questions that are kind of related to this masterclass that you have on your website. The second question is, what is a common exercise mistake that men make?
Common exercise mistake that men make is they don't do any resistance training because they're not gym guys. And just because you're not a person, like a gym person, like identifying it, well, first of all, you're identifying as not being a gym person. Um, and that's a whole nother problem of how do you want to identify, right? Do you want to identify as like a healthy person behavior wise? But the number one mistake I see you guys make is because they label themselves as not a gym person, they don't do any type of training that is going to uh, position them for long term weight loss and sustainability in the form of, or through, resistance training. So they'll do walking, running, get the bikes. Um, And don't get me wrong, walking's great. Running, I'm not convinced. I mean, it is okay, but walking is definitely better if you're trying to lose weight, um, because it's more muscle sparing, and that's a huge part of what ties into like the mistake they make is they don't do any type of resistance training, build up their strength and muscle mass, um, and instead, I'll even tie in there like they're focused too much on the burn in, like the calorie intake in versus burn out. And I'll tell you right now, those exercise machines, or anything that you're on the cardio, like the elliptical, they are grossly overestimating how much calories you burn, because our bodies are not stupid. Like I said, evolution, we were designed to survive. And when you do something repetitively over time, like running or going on elliptical, you're going to get more and more efficient. So you're going to burn less and less calories over time.
I had no idea that those counters on the elliptical, for example, were incorrect. It's not like I plan my day according to what the machine says, but I had no idea that they could be so inaccurate. I should have known because you get tall people, short people, fat people, skinny people. You get all kinds of shapes and sizes of people, but the number's always the same, right?
Yeah. And even if I'll give you this, even if you put in your metrics like, I weigh this much, I'm this height, I'm this age, like, sure, it's going to be maybe more accurate, but it doesn't take into account so many other factors internally, or the food you eat. All that really plays a huge part into like your calorie burn daily, right? And I just don't want to get people thinking like I can exercise off like whatever meal I just ate. That's the better strategy, is to build a furnace through training and just starting off with some kind of strength building exercises, and build something that burns all day long and continuously more and more the more you build it, versus like trying to just build something that is, or just trying to burn in the moment, right? By walking or running. Because when you do that repetitively, like I said, it will get more and more efficient, and you will burn less and less calories, even if your watch or the machine says you're burning like 800 calories. It's just not true.
Wow, look at this. Brian Bisher, Mythbuster. I love it. Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you talking about that. I love the visual in my head when I think about a furnace and burning calories. And it's not only accurate, but it gives a good visual too.
Yeah. I've been taught a lot of metaphors from my coach, so this is very
Love it.
helpful.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you're sharing them. Now, moving on to the third point that you make in your masterclass, it's a strategy to get in better shape while skipping the gym. I got to hear about this. What is that?
Okay, so I know I just talked a lot about the importance of strength training. So I'm not going to come out here and say like you don't have to strength train, like, but we always think like gym equals strength training. You can do this stuff at home. And I understand. I hear it a lot like I'm just not comfortable going to the gym. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing it right. And here's what I tell those people. Like I say, you don't have to. I didn't know when I went to the gym what I was doing. And yeah, it was intimidating. It was very intimidating. Actually, I downgraded to a smaller gym so I could learn and practice. But you can definitely start at home. And here's what I want to ask you, it's just like a rhetorical question. Like, how can I um how can I get in strength training knowing that I don't feel comfortable and confident enough in myself to go to the gym? Knowing that I absolutely have to do this is like pretty much a must if I want long-term sustainable weight loss. I have to get this in. How can I do it? And the easy answer um, is buy resistance bands. Find ways to do this at home. Resistance bands are great. There are tons of machines out there that you can get at home. I'm not even saying you have to get a home gym. That's thousands of dollars. You can get something less than $100 and just look up some strength training workouts, and then start small, right? It doesn't have to be, because I totally realize this problem too, right? What holds people back is like you don't want to feel like a failure. So it's really that commitment, courage, competency, confidence. That's the where you have to go. You have to commit by buying something. Then you have to have the courage to give it a try and be willing to fail and feel like, but you're in your basement. You're doing something at home. Who cares? Or you're doing it with your kids and they're watching you. You guys can laugh together. But then once you build up that repetition and you're consistent with it, you get more competent. And then that's when you get confidence. And if you want to go to a gym at that point, great, because I really believe there's great communities and gyms, especially like whole like fitness centers. I know we belong to one. It's absolutely fantastic. So, and and that goes back to the primary food thing. Us humans, we are designed for community, and all too often, I think we let ourselves just get wrapped up in our own busyness of life and our own family, and we don't get enough community. And it has literally been shown in studies, if you are involved in community, you will be healthier. So I think a gym is a great opportunity, like a health center, something where you can go as a family, make that a part of your culture. but you don't have to start there. And that's why I'm saying you can still get in shape without going to the gym initially by finding some avenues at home. So,
Absolutely. I love my gym. I go to a YMCA that's in my tiny little town of Perrysburg, Ohio. And one of the things I like to do is go at the same time of the day, at least like 5 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I call it dry land training. That's right. I'm a swimmer. So we call it dry land training. And I'm doing some elliptical, but then some weights too, and lunges and squats and whatnot, and lots of
yeah,
stretching. But the people that are there at the same time as me make me feel like I'm in the right place and I'm doing the right things and we're all in this together, you know? So that's another
yeah,
benefit of going to a gym in my mind. And the other 2 days a week, sometimes 3 days a week, I am swimming like an hour a day. I know it's cardio and I don't do it because I want the cardio. I just legit love to swim. You can ask my husband, I
yeah.
smell like a swimming pool all the time. It's funny.
Oh man, I could not do that because those pools make my skin just like itch. I think it's maybe
Yeah.
something you have to get used to.
Now it
But
makes me itch too, but my skin is kinda dry but anyways, I don't wanna gross anybody out. It's just like, one of those, what do you call it? Like one of those negative consequences of your choices, right?
yeah, the benefit for you outweighs the risk, right? I mean, or
That's
the
right.
consequence. You
I love it.
enjoy it.
I have a great community that I swim with. The swimmers are great.
That's perfect. That feeds into your primary food.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing those 3 takeaways from your masterclass video, and thanks for sharing that you are updating it. It's gonna be even better in version 2.0, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, do you have a date by which you think you might have that done?
My goal is November 10th.
All right,
That's
good
the goal
luck.
I've set for myself. Just gotta set goals and deadlines, right?
That's right, and hold yourself accountable. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
text you on, November 9th and say,
Please do.
"Where are you at?"
Celebrate my wife's birthday.
Oh,
That's her
yeah?
birthday.
Is
Yeah.
it? Oh my gosh, well, happy
Yeah.
birthday happy early birthday to your wife. I believe this
Yeah.
episode will come out on Friday, October 28th, 2022.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. That'll be the
Yeah.
weekend of my sister's This will be the weekend of my sister's wedding then.
Oh, wow. Wow, well, gosh,
Yeah.
congratulations to your sister, that's great.
Yeah.
Brian, I think up until this point, I've been talking about dad bods and pharmacist dads and, dad stuff and men's wellness. But who is your ideal client? Is it only men or who is it?
Yeah, thank you, Kim, for asking. And as I mentioned earlier, I really believe it is serving the person you once were. You are best positioned to serve the person you once were. And that being said, my ideal client is a man, a busy professional dad, who right now puts his family ahead of himself and is ahead of his own self care. And because of that, he's got the dreaded, we'll call it a dad bod, but just he's got fat in places he doesn't want that makes him not feel great about himself and feel awful, wake up tired, doesn't have the energy to play with his kids or the patience. Um, but he's got a beautiful family and he really wants to be a part of of their life, an active participant in their life. And he's got this desire to improve his health for the betterment of his family, for the betterment of his own self image, and really finally accept who he is as a person because deep down he does believe that he's made to do great things and he's not yet met his full potential. Um, but he wants to start with his health and fitness to really start checking off other areas and becoming a better version of himself mentally, spiritually, so that he can just show up as the man he knows he can be.
Ooh, I love that. That is a great description. I like what you're doing too. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And can you tell me a little bit about how you do what you do?
Yeah. So my philosophy really comes down to a three-step method or the fast to fit method that I call it. And like I said, I truly believe that we have to lower our defense mechanisms. So that's the first step is really fueling someone's belief that they can do this through easy wins. And while other methods will start off like punching you in the face with a whole bunch of lifestyle changes at once, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this, and you feel like a failure. My philosophy has always been around let's start small. Let's um, gradually build up practices because that's what's going to stick. So it's literally just getting people to walk and drink water in the morning and make sure they're nourishing themselves with movement and basic habits that we take for granted, right? The importance of them. And then we level that up a little bit. After we've boosted, quote unquote, I like, honestly, think of it like a rocket ship, right? Where does it start? It starts on the ground, and
Hmm.
you have to fight the gravity. So everybody has something that's holding them back. In this case, that's your gravity. And everybody has to really dig in deep and find that fuel that is going to propel them up into space where they want to be. And so that first step is all about helping people find their gravity to overcome it, find their fuel to really fuel their journey and their mission, their deep why. And then once we get up there, we help them adapt to this new way of living, to this new identity that they want to be, all through small wins, consistency, building on practices, some resistance training, and some fasting practices to make them more flexible in their metabolic health, so that they're not reliant so much on sugars and carbs for energy. Um, and then that final stage is just elevating everything, right? Once you've got this newfound awareness, consciousness of what you're doing, what works well for you, you find little ways to audit what you're doing and tweak that, um, and improve and understand that the biggest thing you need to remove and you need to place at the beginning of this whole journey is compassion for yourself and acceptance of yourself from where you're at. I really preach this, that you have to start from a place of grace, because when you remove when you put in compassion, you remove criticism, and removing criticism opens the door for curiosity, asking questions, and creativity, right? I just had a client today message me like, I didn't get my 10K steps in that I was aiming for. I only got 5. What was my answer to him? I'm glad that happened to you. What can you learn from it, right? That is okay. Failures are not setbacks. Failures are opportunities. They're only setbacks if you let them to be. Um, so that's a huge part of my process, my philosophy is that once you get up in space, I really believe you're not coming back. If we can get you up there the right way, the right trajectory that works for you, you're going to be up there in orbit and just living life at a whole new height.
Awesome. It sounds like you touch on mindset, you touch on fitness, the resistance and other things. And did you say there was a third thing that you do as part of the journey?
Fast, I mean, well, really, it's like that three-step process, right? Boosting them up through their gravity with their fuel, so that's going to get them there, and then adapting through some different strategies there, nutritionally, and physiologically with exercise, and then at the end, like really getting curious and elevating some of those routines, um, making improvements to get so that they can ultimately, just like I said, reach those new heights. So, but yeah, mindset obviously plays a big part of it. I don't talk about that because people don't always want to hear, like, they don't want to work on the mindset stuff. That's the stuff that no one really wants to work on, but is absolutely crucial, yes, for long term success.
Yeah. Well, if you just sprinkle it in there and they don't know it's
Yeah,
happening, then it's getting done anyway, right? It's like what we do with our
exactly,
kids.
exactly.
Yeah. You teach them a little bit of responsibility, but you don't say, this is the responsibility lesson of the day. You say, hey, can you take this and put it in the laundry basket? Because you're like 3 feet from it. You're closer than I am. And they do it and they learn about picking
Yeah,
up their belongings. But
absolutely.
yeah, grown-ups, we can act like kids sometimes, though. I'm glad that you talk about mindset, even though you don't call it mindset training. People need that because, hey, it's hard to change. Change is not easy.
Yeah, it's not, and we're not designed to change either. You are fighting against your biology. Like, literally, I want to remind your body does not want to lose weight. You have to come at it from a place of self acceptance and compassion to truly get where you want to be. And this cannot be, I will feel better about myself when I lose weight. This has to be, I feel better about myself now, to like, you put that feeling better about yourself and self acceptance at the beginning, not the end of the journey. And then that's what will fuel you and give you the ability to be consistent moving forward. Um, because otherwise, you're just going to be riddled with setbacks, and you're going to see everything as a failure, and you're going to lose your desire to try again.
Yeah. Well, hey, congratulations on changing lives. And how long do people work with you? I mean, is it like a 12-week thing or how long?
Yeah, it's a 12-week thing standard, and then
Good
we're
guess.
aiming to drop like 20 to 30 pounds in that 12 weeks, even through some very simple strategies. And then if people like to work with me beyond that, I'm definitely happy to support them in their journey moving forward.
Nice. Nice. Well, there's a lot of benefits of working with you. Do you mind if I ask, what is the cost of working with you for that 12-week period of time?
Honestly, I don't really like to talk about cost because the value, it's invaluable, right? And until someone values themselves enough, like I rather would have conversations with people. Not to say this is some like unaffordable program, right? But I really, I think it does people a disservice personally in my field when I talk about like, yeah, it costs this much to go through my program because you're not actually getting, you're not paying for the program, right? If I could give everybody here a magic button and say, hey, like you just press this button and you get the result, like that's that's what they want. They don't care about working with me versus like the result. So
So
it's all,
you share that on an individual basis then, right?
yeah, I share that, and I only like to talk about cost if I feel like it's a good fit. I don't want to, like, people can talk to me and we can say, hey, yeah, like this seems like a good fit. Cost is the absolute last thing I talk about.
Hey, that's good. This is good to know. And what I hear you saying, though, is that you and your clients work together to figure out if this is a good relationship to move forward with. So, is there an initial conversation? Like you have an
Yeah,
initial appointment at no charge to have that feeling out session?
yeah, free fitness focuser call, and
Oh, cool.
that's you can get that through the link.
Awesome. So after they log into the masterclass, there is a link at the bottom and it's a big green button, I think. And you click that, and that is what books the call, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. And just in case there's any pharmacist dads listening to this or a pharmacist mom who wants their husband to, enroll in such a program, I just want to make the stones in the creek very clear, getting from one side to the other.
And there, funny you say that. I have been working with one guy whose wife like reached out to me first, and I was like, "Have you brought him into this conversation that you're reaching out to me for some help for him?" She's like, "Well, he always talks about how he wants to get healthy and he never does anything about it. So I'm just taking initiative for him." I was like, "Good for you. Let's get him on the phone and make sure he's on board." And sure enough, he was on board, and he couldn't be happier with his wife, I'm sure, taking initiative for him to make that decision. So it's not always a bad thing to do that. It means you care.
I don't know about other people, but sometimes when my husband complains about a problem enough, I will find a few different solutions, after like 2 years of listening to him whine about something and say, hey, can we do this, this, or that? And he'll often, pick the solution. And I'm the one that pulls the trigger and we get it done together. I guess he's part of the solution. And I'm laughing because one time we had a light fixture in our kitchen that was attached to the ceiling using a cable tie. And for 7 years, I said, "Honey," and I didn't nag him. I said, "Honey, I need you to deal with that." And he'd say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'll do it." So what I ended up doing is going online and finding a couple of light fixtures that I knew would actually stay attached without the cable tie. And I said, "I know there's an electrician. It's going to cost $45 for the light fixture. It's going to cost 85 for the electrician. Is it okay if we go with this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Which light fixture do you want, A or B?" And he pointed to B. That's what we got. That's what the electrician installed. He didn't have to do anything but like point and be in agreement with me. Sometimes men, no offense to men out there, but sometimes men just need a little push or they need somebody to
Yes.
pick something that they know is going to work and for them to feel like they're part of the decision and then they'll move forward. Yeah. Sometimes wellness is like this.
To put it bluntly, they need a kick in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, but not a nag, just the kick
Not
in
a
the butt.
nag, just a kick in the butt. Just be like, "Hey." So,
Yeah.
that's a great story. I It reminds me of several things, here. that
Oh, yeah, you got
my
a light
wife has been
fixture?
like, "Hey, can you paint the house?" Well, it just really ties into this idea of, like, and I'll give your husband credit. I'm gonna defend him for a second because I really think this comes down to him. Same thing for him as does for me is like I know the frustration it's gonna cost me and the time. Sometimes I look at these projects and I'm like, I have this is like an open ended. I don't know how much time this is gonna take me. I don't know if I'm gonna do it right. I don't know if I'm gonna break something. I don't know if I'm gonna hurt myself. Like
Mhm.
when you feel out of your your zone of genius, like you are gonna shy away from those things. And that's where I've bought into this principle I love. It's like money value over time. How much do I value my time? Well, that's just how much I'm gonna pay someone to do this for me that's better at it than I am.
Yes, hence
Now I
the
might pay someone to
electrician.
paint my house.
Yeah, yes, you need to find somebody to paint the house, or your wife needs to listen to this episode and find, like, 3 people that could possibly paint it, get all the estimates, and just ask you, "Which one do you want?" And
Exactly.
there
You
you
just
go.
gotta put options out there.
Yeah. But hey, that's why I wanted to know how long people coach with you and what the cost is because, I think there's a lot of people out there that understand there's a lot of different options out there and they are overwhelmed by the number of options that there are. So if you say, my coaching program is 12 weeks long, we're going to work on mindset, nutrition, and fitness. This is what you're getting out of it, and it's going to cost you some money. They can decide, do I want the thing that's on the other side, which is better
Yeah.
health, better permanent mindset towards nutrition and wellness and fitness? They're going to have to decide. But I feel like this conversation puts you right in their path as the solution to their problem, which I think is really cool that you have focused on professional dads.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kim. And as we all know that nothing you can have it cheap, fast, and good, right? Nothing cheap ends up being good, and it's not fast. But I'm not even saying this right, but you can only pick like 2 of the 3, right? It cannot be fast and good, but cheap. So, and not to say like coaching is like is not unaffordable. It is definitely affordable, and I just don't like to say a price because that may change. My price may change in the future, so I don't want to be quoted as saying I charge this much for coaching when who knows what the value will be. It really depends on an experience. But I can say this: I really believe that those $67, $97 programs out there that are sold are part of the problem and why people don't result in permanent change because they're just bombarded. They're given this is the prices are juxtaposition to like a value of like eight, crazy amounts of money. But you're like, you're getting such a deal. It's only $97. When people feel like they've gotten a deal on something, they don't do it because they're not truly invested in themselves. If they are only paying $67 for something, then that's how much they value. That's how much they value their health. They're putting a price on it. Um, and I really believe that health is invaluable. And so that's that's my long way of saying, like, that cheap things don't usually lead to long-term sustainable results. And sometimes you don't even do them at all. Like, I'm guilty of buying a course for $197 and not even opening it. Like, it's one of those things where your initial, um the energy, the motivation you had to do it, like, it dipped really fast because you then became accountable yourself, maybe aside from some emails, like, begging you to come back, like, you then became accountable to yourself to show up and do the work. Um, and that's again, you can't have and it's really not fair to even ask, like, a spouse to hold you accountable. It's not fair to ask a friend because I don't really believe that even works either. You need someone with a level of authority that you can talk to and not like on your same level, right?
Mhm.
You can definitely have your spouse and friend be accountable to you. Um, but again, I don't believe that that's going to be as effective as having a mentor and a coach. And I found that to be true for myself. I tried to have my wife hold me accountable to growing this business. That did not work. I hired a coach. So I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say I had a coach. Like I have invested in a business coaching program. So I'll leave that there. I know I've probably spoken too much on this topic.
Oh, no, that's all right. I know the Venn diagram that you're referring to where it's good, fast, and cheap, pick 2 because all the convergence of all 3 just doesn't exist. And that's why I think Fiverr exists because they're trying to get the convergence of all three circles, good, fast, and cheap. And it
Yeah.
doesn't always happen. Just pick two because that's how the world works. And I love that you
Yeah.
admitted that you needed a coach. We all need that objective third party who can judge us because we can't see our blind spots. And I wish you well on your coaching journey because I think you are that objective third party for a lot of professional men who are on a wellness journey who need that accountability and that instruction. You know,
Yeah.
you're doing the
And let me
thing.
just say this. Can I finish with this?
Yeah.
It's not a time management issue, guys. It's a priority and urgency issue. So make it a priority and create some urgency, and don't let it be something that puts you in the hospital. That you don't want that to be like the thing that creates urgency for you. You have to find another way to get this urgent, um, and make it a priority.
Well said. Brian, thank you so much for being here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to share, like maybe how people can connect with you?
Thank you, Kim, so much for having me. It's really been fun, and I've enjoyed talking about this topic. As you can tell, I'm passionate about this. I'm glad you didn't come on here to ask me about drugs because that is not something I'm passionate about. But uh, s- again, I seem to take a while to answer your questions. The short answer is LinkedIn. I'm also You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me professionally on there. Um, and yes, it's a great way to just to meet friends. I met an awesome friend on there just from listening to him on a podcast. So don't be hesitant to reach out. I won't ask you, hey, do I know you? I'll just be like, yeah, maybe they heard me on a podcast.
Yes. Hey, that's a great way to reach out to somebody because I think people get to know you the more you share. And I got to know you actually.
Yeah.
I know that I'm putting this at the end, but we got to know each other through Metapreneurs, and we've
Yeah.
seen each other in person at a Metapreneurs conference in Cincinnati, right in your backyard, and then
Yeah.
also, of course, online. But then at the Ohio Pharmacists Association, I was
I
working out
know.
in the gym, and in you walk with Corey Jenks.
Yeah.
It's a small world. So yeah.
Well, since you called him out, I will say that is the guy that I heard him on a podcast, and I was like, "Oh, this guy seems cool. Let me reach out." And his response to me was like, "Hey, do we know each other?" And I was like, "No, but I heard you on a podcast, and I thought you were pretty cool." So now we are friends. He's come to visit me. We have gone to Columbus together for OPA, and I couldn't imagine having not what my life would be like have I not sent that message. Because it took courage. I was like, oh, just gonna reach out to this guy. I didn't pitch him or anything. I just reached out and just connected with him.
That's awesome. That's an organic relationship right
Yep.
there. That's
Yep.
cool. And if you would like to reach out to Brian and connect with him on LinkedIn, you can find him at Brian Bisher. That's his name, Brian Bisher. And that's it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Brian. It's a pleasure to finally connect with you here on a podcast recording. And I look forward to seeing you around Ohio and other conferences in the future.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing you as well, Kim. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. You're welcome. Thanks again to Dr. Brian Bisher for joining me for episode 183 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. It is always a pleasure hosting another Ohio pharmacist on this podcast. Brian and I have known each other for a few years, partly because of Metapreneurs, but partly because we've seen each other at OPA. And I can assure you that he is passionate about men's wellness. He has not changed his tune over the years. With his passion and his personal story, he is well positioned to help men with their wellness journeys. If you know someone who needs Brian's help, please share this episode with them. Let's wrap this up. Thank you for joining me for episode 183 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes, a link to Brian's Facebook group, website with the free masterclass, his LinkedIn link, and my social media links, and more are in the show notes. Please feel free to reach out to Brian and me and connect. And I know I've already mentioned this, but I'll say it again. If you know someone who would like this episode or needs to hear it, please share this with them. And subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks again for listening today. I'll be back next Friday, November 4th, with a solo episode. It is one of my pronunciation episodes. I love those. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you next week.